I've been a huge fan of Elden Ring since it launched in February of 2022. I've beaten the game on 2 separate characters and consider myself to be pretty good for a casual player. After beating the game, I started to get very interested in watching challenge runs where players took on insane penalties while trying to overcome different bosses. You may have seen the video I made where I took on the Tree Sentinel at level 1. That was an easy challenge in comparison to many others, some discussed in this video. The most common challenge I saw was RL1, where you load into the game as the Wretch character and try to beat the game without ever leveling up. There was also Let Me Solo Her and a number of different randomizer playthroughs that were both challenging for the players and entertaining to watch. While scrolling through Reddit, I came upon a video of someone beating Radagon by rolling into him doing just 5 damage at a time. Something felt different about this. I reached out to the player named Marks, who accomplished this feat. I took a look at his content and saw that he had already beaten all of the major bosses with bare fist only. He had also taken on the challenge of beating bosses by just rolling into them for damage. Initially, he was rolling into enemies, dealing 5 damage per roll. After completing this challenge where he beat all the bosses, he switched to rolling into bosses dealing only 1 damage per roll. Obviously, this just takes 5 times as long, which increases the difficulty of the challenge. While there are many different challenges that he's done that, as a filthy casual, blows my mind, there is one in particular that stands above the others. The 14-hour challenge of beating the fire giant 1 damage at a time.
You, please, I can read them. You,
subscribe.
please, you're...
Subscribe.
The idea for this challenge stems from special armor that inflicts damage to enemies as you roll into them. The damage is proportional to the amount of armor you are wearing. For the Fire Giant challenge, Marks wore 1 piece of gear, allowing him to deal just 1 damage per roll. For reference, the Fire Giant has a total health pool of 42,363 health. To let that sink in for a moment, Marks has to roll into the Fire Giant 42,363 times to beat the boss, something he attempted 4 different times. The first attempt he lost after only a couple of hours. At that time, he realized he wasn't prepared for the challenge yet and he would come back to it later. The second time around, he got 10-ish hours in and looked to be steadily on pace to taking down the giant, claiming these lands. While dodging attacks from the monster, he neglected to see a drop-off and swiftly fell off the cliff, ending his 10-hour run. In the third attempt, after getting 8 hours in his game, it crashed, once again making him start completely over. After this, he decided he would give it 1 more attempt, and if he was unsuccessful, he would just move on to a different boss, as it's a very time-heavy challenge. In Marks' final attempt, he began the challenge steadily making progress. The question for me that came to mind was, if he did these 14 hours without any breaks? But according to him, there is actually an unintentional pause button in the game that he used.
There actually is a pause button in Elden Ring, or it's not supposed to be a pause button, but it works as one. If you go to like your equipment and you press the tips button, the very last one on the bottom, there's like 3 buttons, the very last one on the bottom, press that and your game just pauses. Because it's supposed to like teach you how to play the game, and it doesn't obviously want you dying while it's having like a tip open for you. So it works like that.
42,363 rolls later, nearly 14.5 hours later, the largest boss in Elden Ring has been struck down entirely by 1 damage rolls. While Marks has taken on other bosses such as Malekith, who is arguably the best boss in Elden Ring, and Elden Beast, the coolest Elden Ring boss in my opinion, this Fire Giant challenge is the most impressive I have seen by far. If you would like to see more Elden Ring content, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and consider subscribing. Stay safe, Wildlanders.